Harlem, 1933. The streets pulse with life and menace, a rhythm of jazz spilling from smoky speakeasies, the soft clatter of shoes against wet cobblestones, and the low hum of whispered deals in darkened doorways. Shadows stretch long across brick walls, flickering under the dim glow of gas lamps, as if the city itself is watching, waiting for a moment that could tip the balance of power. Tonight, that moment has arrived on a narrow alleyway, hidden from the main drag, yet perfectly positioned. Bumpy Johnson's bodyguard moves with quiet precision. His footsteps are soft, almost imperceptible, but every step carries intention. He knows the stakes, lives, loyalty, and reputation hang in the balance, and one misstep could unravel years of carefully constructed order. Some say he feels the pulse of Harlem beneath his feet, senses the undercurrent of tension like a sixth sense. Others whisper that he has studied the art of anticipation for so long. Every movement, every heartbeat, every shadow is already accounted for. Across the alley, rivals gather, unaware that the tide is about to turn against them. They laugh softly, gestures casual, but the slightest twitch betrays their confidence. Some believe it is fate that guides this encounter. Others insist it is the cold calculation of a man trained in the rules of survival, respect, and fear. The bodyguard pauses, reading the scene, measuring distance, timing, and intent. The air is electric with anticipation. A stray cat yowls in the distance. A train rumbles faintly across the tracks, and the soft hiss of a match sparks briefly in a doorway. Every ordinary sound is amplified, heavy with suspense, and then time compresses. The finger hovers over the trigger, a heartbeat stretches into eternity. Some say he hesitated, acutely aware of the life and death gamble in his hand. Others claim he acted instantly, as a master of strategy, turning instinct into action, prediction into execution. And finally, the shot rings out, cracking the night like thunder. Harlem freezes. Conversations halt, footsteps pause mid-stride, and shadows quiver. The echo stretches far beyond the alley, rattling windows, and seeping into the veins of the city. In that instant, the dynamics of power shift. The bodyguard does not flinch, does not falter. He has acted, not recklessly, but with lethal precision. Fear ripples through those who witnessed it. Respect follows immediately, and the legend of Bumpy Johnson expands. Some say it was destiny. Others insist it was strategy. Every figure in the alley, the men, the shadows, even Harlem itself understands that the rules have changed. Every whispered rumor that spreads from that alley, every cautious glance exchanged afterward, cements the moment as pivotal, timeless, unforgettable. The cinematic framing of the scene focuses on silhouettes and shadows, on the play of light and dark, hinting at the unseen power struggles that define the city. The audience feels suspense rise and fall, a slow tension that snaps into the explosive moment of action. Harlem has witnessed a single, decisive act that will ripple through its streets, shaping perception, testing loyalty, and establishing fear as currency. In these few seconds, the city, the people, and the legend are forever altered. Some say this was the night the heartbeat of Harlem changed forever. Others believe that the consequences will unfold slowly, like a tide reshaping a coastline, relentless and unstoppable. Before legends emerge, a city must breathe with life, danger, and invisible power. Harlem in the early 1930s thrums with energy, a chaotic rhythm of jazz spilling from clubs, laughter echoing from doorways, and the whispered movements of men who shape the streets from shadows. The streets are alive, yet every corner holds risk. Every footstep could spark opportunity or peril. Some say Harlem itself chooses who rises and who falls. Others insist that survival demands cunning, intelligence, and the ability to read the currents of ambition, betrayal, and loyalty. So, city is a stage of contrasts. Neon lights and brass instruments mix with grime-streaked brick and rain-slick alleys. Jazz musicians play with passion, unaware or perhaps indifferent to the silent battles waging in the back rooms and alleyways. Prostitutes, hustlers, and shopkeepers all navigate a delicate balance, their survival dictated not only by skill or luck, but by perception and timing. In Harlem, every action carries consequence. A single misstep in a conversation, a glance misread, a gesture misunderstood, can trigger violence or betrayal. Some streets are controlled by small-time hustlers who thrive on rumor and intimidation. Others are ruled by men whose influence stretches into the offices of corrupt officials, the backrooms of clubs, and the very veins of the city. Among them moves Bumpy Johnson, a figure whose reputation is just beginning to take shape. Some say he sees opportunity where others see chaos. Others claim he manipulates outcomes before they happen, reading men as if they were open books. He observes the undercurrent of fear and respect, watching who hesitates and who charges forward, learning the psychology of each player in her shadowed chessboard. Every whisper, every gesture, every subtle tension in the alley is recorded in his mind, weighed, and transformed into strategy. His awareness makes him more than a man. He is a force, operating with a precision that others cannot perceive. The city itself reflects the constant push and pull of power. Some nights the streets are filled with music, laughter, and vibrant life. On others, the air is thick with tension, every corner a potential battlefield. Rival gangs monitor one another, corrupt officials turn blind eyes selectively, and the smallest actions an unsent message, a misdelivered package can ignite a storm. Yet amidst this chaos, Bumpy learns, adapts, and thrives. The audience begins to feel the weight of the environment. Harlem is not just a city, but a living organism, shaping the men within it as much as they shape it. In this world, legends are born slowly, stitched together through observation, strategy, and subtle acts of influence. Some say the city hums with invisible forces, responding to the ambitions and fears of those who move carefully among its streets. Others whisper that a man like Bumpy Johnson does not merely survive Harlem. He bends it to his vision, shaping outcomes long before rivals realize the game has begun. By immersing the audience in this tense, pulsating environment, they feel both the beauty and danger of Harlem, the vibrancy of its culture intertwined with the shadows of power, deception, and ambition. They sense the stakes rising, the tension building, and the inevitability of the legendary moments to come. Every alley, every whispered rumor, and every fleeting glance is a precursor to history. Harlem is alive, and tonight it waits for the man who will command its pulse and begin to carve his name into legend. Bumpy Johnson was not merely a man of action, he was a man of perception, strategy, and calculation. Some say he could read a man's intentions before a word was spoken, discern loyalty and treachery in a glance, and predict outcomes that others believed were chance. Others whisper that he bent circumstances to his will with subtle manipulations, arranging events like pieces on a chessboard. From a young age, his life had been shaped by hardship, by streets that demanded more than brute strength. They demanded intelligence, awareness, and the ability to anticipate danger at every turn. His early years were a study in survival. He learned to navigate the chaos of Harlem, where laughter and jazz masked threats, and every gesture could conceal ambition or betrayal. A minor slight could turn deadly. A whispered rumor could shift power. In this world, Bumpy observed relentlessly. He watched how men moved, how they reacted to pressure, how alliances formed and dissolved. He learned that strength alone did not command respect, strategy, cunning, and timing did. He internalized these lessons, honing instincts that would later make him untouchable. Small acts hinted at his extraordinary skill. A tense confrontation in a nightclub might be resolved not with violence but with a well-placed word, a glance, or a subtle show of leverage. Some say he could turn fear into loyalty, intimidation into respect, and risk into opportunity. Every decision was deliberate, every interaction measured for consequence. Even the men closest to him, lieutenants, allies, acted according to the quiet, precise authority he exerted, trusting his judgment implicitly. The bodyguard who would later pull the fateful trigger had been molded by that same discipline, taught to anticipate, to act decisively, and to respect the intelligence of the man he served. Harlem itself responded to him. When he entered a room, conversations paused. When he observed from the shadows, behavior shifted. Some believed in his almost supernatural ability to control events from afar. Others insisted it was pure calculation, born of relentless observation and an unyielding understanding of human behavior. Yet, whether myth or reality, the effect was undeniable. Men deferred, alliances were tested, and fear and respect were indistinguishable in his presence. His reputation began to grow, not through overt displays of violence, but through precision, patience, and the careful orchestration of events. He understood the power of narrative. The stories people told themselves about him were as important as his actions. Some say that even his silence was a weapon, a signal that every word and every pause carried intent. Others whisper that his myth was intentionally cultivated, that he allowed tallies of almost supernatural foresight to circulate, knowing they would enhance loyalty and intimidate rivals. By now, the audience begins to sense why the events of that fateful night were not a surprise. The bodyguard's lethal precision, the ripple through Harlem, the quiet authority commanding every decision, these were extensions of Bumpy's own mind. The city had been shaped in his image long before the gun fired. Every glance, every whispered conversation, every calculated step toward power had set the stage. Some say the streets themselves recognized him, adjusting instinctively to his presence. Others claim it was the aura of a man who understood the interplay of fear, respect, and strategy better than anyone else in Harlem. In the shadowed alleys, the music-filled clubs, and the quiet observation of men who would become allies or rivals, Bumpy Johnson had begun to carve his legend. He was more than a man, he was a force, a strategist whose influence extended beyond what anyone could see. The audience feels the tension, the anticipation, the understanding that the events to come are not random, they are the inevitable result of a mind that sees several steps ahead. A presence that bends circumstance, and a man whose legend is already taking shape in the very streets he will soon command. Power in Harlem did not arrive overnight. It was earned in quiet observation, subtle manipulation, and the careful orchestration of events that others scarcely noticed. Bumpy Johnson understood this better than anyone. Some say his rise was written in the rhythm of the city itself, a destiny intertwined with Harlem's pulse. Others insist it was the product of patience, intelligence, and a meticulous understanding of human behavior. Every handshake, every glance, every whispered conversation became a calculated move on a chessboard only he could see. The streets themselves were both stage and opponent. Rival gangs tested one another constantly, probing weaknesses, establishing dominance through a combination of reputation and threat. Corrupt officials, silent observers, and opportunistic small-time operators navigated a web of influence that shifted with each day. In this environment, Bumpy's intelligence gave him an edge. While others relied on brute force or fear alone, he leveraged perception, timing, and strategy. Some say he could turn hesitation into advantage, a misstep by an opponent into a permanent shift in control. Others claim he moved silently, letting the city bend to his will without ever firing a shot. Deals were struck in smoke-filled rooms, alliances forged through loyalty and subtle intimidation. Each agreement carried an unspoken understanding. Loyalty was rewarded, betrayal punished, and observation never ceased. Some believe that Bumpy had eyes everywhere, though few ever saw him directly. His presence was a suggestion, a shadow of authority that shaped decisions before words were even spoken. Every man who encountered him learned quickly that crossing him carried consequences far beyond the visible threat. Fear and respect coexisted, entwined in ways that few could separate. Bumpy's reputation grew not through overt violence, but through demonstration of intelligence and control. He understood the psychology of influence. Some say he could read a man's intentions with a glance, anticipate movements, and manipulate events so subtly that rivals never realized they had been outmaneuvered until it was too late. Others insist that his rise was as much myth as reality, that the stories circulating through Harlem amplified his aura and cemented obedience and fear. Every confrontation, whether a negotiation in a club, a quiet meeting in a back room, or a tense standoff in an alley, added layers to his legend. Men learned to wait for his signal, to follow his lead, and to anticipate his strategy. Even those who opposed him respected the intelligence guiding his actions. Each small victory strengthened his position, but more importantly, each calculated move reshaped the perception of power in Harlem. He was building not just influence, but a psychological empire of fear and respect, interwoven so seamlessly that no man could challenge it without risking everything. Audience tension grows as every encounter highlights the invisible stakes. Alliances, betrayals, and loyalty are constantly tested. Rumors of his foresight spread through the city like wildfire. Some claimed Bumpy predicted outcomes that even his rivals believed were random. Others whispered that he cultivated myth, ensuring that his name became larger than life, a symbol of control and intelligence in a world defined by chaos and danger. The stage is set for the alley, for the moment when loyalty, fear, and strategy converge into a single act that will change Harlem forever. The audience senses inevitability. Bumpy's rise is complete, and the consequences of his influence will soon be realized. Every shadowed corner, every whispered conversation, every hesitant glance is a testament to his growing power. Harlem has learned to bend in his presence, and the story of the man who commands its pulse is ready to unfold in legend. The alley is silent, yet alive with tension. Harlem itself seems to pause, holding its breath as if aware that the course of history is about to be rewritten in a single heartbeat. Streetlights flicker, casting long, trembling shadows against brick walls, shadows that seem to move like silent witnesses. The air is heavy with the scent of rain-damp asphalt, tobacco smoke, and faint perfume from a nearby club, a mix of life and menace that clings to every surface. Even the distant rumble of a train sounds deliberate, a metronome for the moment that has been building for weeks, months, years. Bumpy Johnson's bodyguard stands perfectly stilled, every muscle taut, eyes scanning the alley with a predator's precision. Some say he can sense intention in the slightest twitch of a shoulder, in the faintest hesitation of a gaze. Others insist he moves only when circumstances are perfect, when instinct, calculation, and preparation align in a single, irrevocable act. Across the alley, the rival gang is unaware. They chatter quietly, gestures casual, but their confidence is fragile. Every man has misjudged the situation, every movement calculated by someone far beyond their perception. The bodyguard pauses, his finger hovers over the trigger. Time stretches, each heartbeat echoing against brick walls. Some witnesses claim he hesitated, feeling the weight of every life, every consequence, every chain reaction that might follow. Others swear he acted with cold precision, years of experience and discipline guiding him to the exact moment. Silence thickens around him. A distant cat screeches, a bottle clinks somewhere, even the wind seems to pause. And then the gun fires. Harlem freezes. Conversations halt, intense cats sleep into shadows. Rivals stumble, some ducking instinctively, others frozen by shock. The sound vibrates through the streets, a tremor that ripples far beyond the alley, rattling windows and sending whispers racing through Harlem's clubs, speakeasies, and backrooms. The city itself seems to shudder, a silent acknowledgement that something irreversible has occurred. The bodyguard does not flinch. His movements remain controlled, deliberate. He is the instrument of strategy, the executor of a plan orchestrated long before the trigger was pulled. Fear spreads immediately, respect follows. Every man who witnesses the act understands that rules have changed, that the balance of power has shifted. Some say this moment was fate, inevitable from the start. Others insist it was pure calculation, a meticulously executed maneuver designed to demonstrate authority and cement loyalty. In that instant, myth intertwines with reality. Bumpy Johnson's name, already whispered in corridors of power and shadow, grows in stature. Stories of the alley, the shot, and the precise execution begin to circulate immediately. Some say the alley itself remembers, that the sound echoes even decades later. Others claim that Bumpy guided every movement, anticipating reactions, ensuring that consequences both immediate and psychological would ripple across the city. The audience feels it. Suspense, adrenaline, and awe mingling as tension resolves in a single act. The alley is not merely a location. It is a crucible, a stage, where loyalty, fear, and intelligence converge. A legend is forged, not by chaos alone, but by the precision, strategy, and intelligence of those who act in its name. Harlem will never forget this night, nor the presence that orchestrated it. Every shadow, every whisper, every cautious glance, after this moment bears the mark of a city transformed by a single, decisive act. Harlem reacts, but not in chaos. The city pulses with the subtle tremors of fear, respect, and recalculated alliances. Streets that once carried laughter and music now hum with anticipation, each footstep measured, each glance cautious. Some say the city itself senses the shift, as if its heartbeat has changed. Others insist it is the work of men like Bumpy Johnson, whose presence alone bends perception and rewrites the rules of power. The alley where the shot rang out becomes a silent monument, its cobblestones carrying the echo of that decisive act, whispered in hushed tones, long after the night fades. Rivals retreat, regrouping to understand the new balance. Whispers of betrayal, loyalty, and opportunity weave through Harlem's clubs, backrooms, and streets. Bumpy Johnson does not flaunt dominance. He observes, quiet and deliberate, allowing the consequences of his bodyguard's action to resonate across Harlem. Some say he orchestrates every ripple from the shadows, anticipating how each man will respond, predicting reactions with almost preternatural accuracy. Others insist the effect is instinct, honed through years of reading behavior and manipulating outcomes. The result is the same: fear and respect intertwine, loyalty is tested and earned, and the city bends to the subtle authority he commands. The bodyguard's decisive act becomes a symbol of this authority. Loyalty is amplified, not just because of fear, but because men recognize the intelligence behind the move. Some claim the act confirms what everyone already suspected. Bumpy Johnson does not rely on chaos to govern. He rules through calculation, precision, and the power of reputation. Others whisper that the city itself has become a stage, and every player now moves according to the rules set by a man whose legend is growing faster than the streets can contain. Stories and rumors multiply. Some say the alley itself holds the memory of the shot, that the echoes linger like a phantom rhythm in Harlem's heartbeat. Others insist that Bumpy's presence alone is sufficient to guide the city's perception, bending fear, loyalty, and respect into a seamless network of influence. Men move differently now. Conversations are cautious. Alliances are formed or avoided with the awareness that miscalculation carries consequences far beyond what is immediately visible. The psychological impact of that single moment extends across every block, every corner, every whispered exchange. The audience feels the subtle, almost imperceptible tension that lingers after a decisive act of power. The city has shifted. A new hierarchy has emerged. Respect is not demanded through threats alone, but earned and reinforced through precision, strategy, and the demonstration of lethal loyalty. Harlem has learned a lesson. Intelligence and decisiveness outweigh brute force, and men like Bumpy Johnson command reverence not by chaos, but by their ability to shape it. As the night deepens and whispers spread through the streets, the legend solidifies. Some say that no alley, no club, no corridor of Harlem remains untouched by the psychological ripples of that night. Others claim it as a myth, a story shaped over time. Yet the effect is real. Power has been consolidated, loyalty tested, fear refined, and the name of Bumpy Johnson grows in stature, weight, and inevitability. Harlem, for all its noise and music, for all its vibrancy and shadow, has recognized its most formidable strategist. The city bends quietly under his influence, and the stage is set for the enduring legend to continue shaping history in every heartbeat of its street.